What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new episode. Coach Joe here with Heartletics.com. This is going to be a little bit different. This is not going to be your normal, typical, right, fat loss video or nutrition, training, anything like that. Although we will be talking about how they kind of are applicable into what we're going to be talking about in today's message. But regardless, this is going to be for words of wisdom. There was so many people that reached out to me from the first time I've ever kind of shared a message, right? That kind of touched me a little bit, right? In terms of reading the Bible and going through Jacob and just, how he was wrestling with God. And then, God, basically dislocates his hip and then changes his name to Israel. It's just things like that I felt very uncomfortable, right? Out of my comfort zone sharing that. But once again, I was blown away with just the amount of feedback from people just messaging me saying like, dude, that's awesome. Continue to make that type of content. It's really inspiring. So that's exactly what we're going to continue to do. And these, weekly videos I'm going to do with you, they're not going to be as edited as the, fat loss and training, nutrition videos. This is going to be kind of more raw, more of just sharing with you what's kind of been on my mind, right? Or at least how I see things. Because I like to say it like this, everybody's different. Right? Coming from the health and fitness side of it, obviously everybody needs different, meal plans and training programs and macros and everything like that for, specifically them, if that makes sense. It's the same thing with honestly trying to grow your relationship with God, trying to, strengthen up your faith muscles, I like to say. So just hear me out and I'll give you the quick little 30-second elevator pitch just in case you don't know me. I pretty much grew up in just a Christian home and different Christian schools all throughout life until I graduated from high school. From there, I pretty much always, once again, knew about God, but honestly never had a personal relationship with God, if that makes sense. Fast forward to most recent times, and I'm really trying to focus on filling up my cups, okay? And what does that mean? Well, I'm literally in this season of life, I like to call it, where not just spiritually, but honestly, like physically, mentally, emotionally, everything. I'm trying to become the best version of myself. We talk so much about at Heartletics is like, hey, filling up your cups to pour out more into others. And we also talk about leaving a legacy. And it's like, I'm in such a season of life right now of just personal development and personal growth, if that makes sense, where in all areas of my life, all areas, right? Not just the physical, not just the mental, right? But like the mindset, but also like the emotional and the spiritual stuff. I never really got too invested, I like to say. Never really got too invested. So once again, I'm in a whole different season of life right now where I want to make sure that I'm filling up my cup. And that's pretty much like why these videos are being created also, is because I see things from a different perspective when it comes to the health and fitness, meaning that if you go watch any of a nutritional video or any fat loss video or training video that's on my YouTube channel, it's all based around teaching you something, a different perspective or easy, sustainable habits, something like that to help you, right, get more consistent with and have a long-term success. Well, this is just, once again, like another style. Instead of it just being with the, the mental and the physical, this is more of like the emotional and the spiritual. So take it for how it is, but also keep this in mind too. There's more than one reason why I'm actually making these videos as well. So for starters, let me explain. I really want, right? I talked about being a better leader, right? And leading a legacy. I think it's super cool just how the internet is. I know it gets a lot of, people hate at times, especially I hate at times too. I think there's a lot of pollution and filth on social media, but at the same time, it can be used for a lot of good. My son loves watching just like random toy videos on YouTube, and he knows I have a YouTube channel. He knows I make videos. I would love for maybe just one day him to stumble upon these videos where I'm talking about filling up my spiritual cup, right? And a different perspective. So that way, fingers crossed, right? My 4-year-old son, he doesn't grow up to be like me where he knows about God but doesn't have a personal relationship with God. And I went through a lot of ups and downs, right, the past 30 years, And so it's like, I really hope and pray that, this video or any of these videos that I make, right, it affects my son because, I mean, that's my bloodline, and I want what's best for him because obviously I don't want him to go through some of the struggles and, challenges that I had to go through. So keep that in mind, okay? The second reason also is, and this is going to sound so selfish, but I really hope you hear me out, is that I'm making these videos for me to level up in life. I'm being completely honest with you. And you might think that's prideful, but hear me out. I really hope that you don't, if you let me explain. So for starters, right, I mentioned that at Heartletics, our coaching program, we focus on helping individuals, lose body fat. And in doing so, we don't give them like, a one size fits all, right, cookie cutter plan. It's very tailored and personalized for them. Meaning like the meal plans are tailored for them, the training programs are tailored for them, the mindset, like all this stuff is tailored for them in hopes of them creating sustainable habits, right? So really hope that you're picking up what I'm putting down. Well, in order, right, for what we preach about at Heartletics, which is, hey, don't just give a man a fish and feed him for a day, but teach a man how to fish and feed him for the rest of his life. This is where we know for a fact, and hopefully you should too after hearing this, the mindset is more important than the physical habits. Meaning that somebody could know how to, go for a walk, right? For example, right? An easy physical habit, we like to say that's NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis, right? And hey, get 10,000 steps in, easy way to, burn some calories and lose some body fat, right? Improve your overall health. Anybody knows how to do that. But think about it. If your mindset lacks discipline, you're not going to do the outcome, right? You're not going to do the right action to get the outcome that you want, is what I'm trying to say. So hopefully that makes sense. So when it comes to, let's just say, so when it comes to some of the mindset habits at So when it comes to some of the mindset habits at Heartletics that we like to focus on, there's 7 of them. Just like there's 7 physical habits, there's 7 mindset habits. There's 3 of them that I'm actually doing right now by making this video, honestly. And by making this style video and continuing on with these words of wisdom videos, I'm really filling up my cup, right? I'm really helping out myself with embracing me, right, with my mindset habits. And here's the best part about these habits that we go over at Heartletics. They're all universal, right? Meaning that like the goals for me, right, whether it's business goals, family goals, health goals, relationship goals, wealth goals, right? I'll be completely honest with you guys. I got goals for everything. They're all universal though. The mindset habits that we focus on at Heartletics, they're all universal. So it doesn't matter if my goal is to, have 6-pack abs all year round and eat donuts every day. Guess what? Or hey, I want to make more money, or hey, I want to, grow my spiritual faith more. These habits that I'm sharing with you, right? The 7 mindset habits are Heartletics. They're all universal. It doesn't matter what the goal is. Okay, so the 3 of them that I'm doing right now by making this video, the first one is knowledge. And you may be wondering, how is that a mindset habit? Well, we like to say it like this, right? Knowledge is power, right? Obviously, you have to make sure that once you have that knowledge, you're using it, right? Can't just let it go to waste, right? But knowledge is power, and that leads to a lot of wisdom as well. So when it comes to knowledge, we like to say, hey, focus on, 30 minutes a day acquiring something, right? Whether you're listening to a podcast, I know a lot of the members listen to the Heartletics podcast because I'm their coach, right? But there's other podcasts out there that focus on self-help, self-improvement, regardless, right? Whatever your journey of life is and where you're trying to get to your goals, acquire, right? 30 minutes of knowledge. Remember, that could be a podcast, that could be reading something, that could be listening and watching something on YouTube, that could be taking a course or investing into a mentor or a coach. It doesn't matter. But for me specifically, in order for me to come on here and share these words of wisdom videos with you guys, I have to get my knowledge from the Bible. So this is helping me out big time with my mindset, right? You see how they're kind of correlating? It's like I need to be focusing on acquiring knowledge. Well, where's the best place to get the knowledge from if I'm going to be speaking about the Bible? I should probably be reading the Bible. So it's funny how everything kind of comes into alignment, if that makes sense, no matter the goals. The second mindset habit is that I'm using, right, by making these videos, is meditation. A lot of people think like as meditation is, you're like a Buddhist monk and you got to sit like this and say, That's not what we talk about at Heartletics at all. We talk about meditation in a form of, quieting your mind, right? As guys, right? We have all these thoughts and to-do lists in our heads. It gets us very distracted, right? Meaning that, hey, if we have all these different things in our head, we're going to be focused on doing this, doing this, doing this, doing this, where we can kind of get lost in the sauce. And I know personally for me, right, as a business owner, if I have so many different things to do, I sometimes, right, being completely honest, I focus on, okay, what is the little easy things that I can do to cross it off to make me feel better, like I'm doing the right things, but it's not like the biggest task. It's not the biggest needle mover, if that makes sense. So somebody could have all these different things, like, I have to, pick up the kids, I have to make dinner, I have to, work out, I have to do whatever the case may be, where they don't focus on quieting their minds, where if you think about it, they have all these different tasks, all these different things scrambling on their head. So what's typically last, right, on their minds? Well, maybe it's their goals. Maybe it's praying. Maybe it's, self-improvement. It's typically putting themselves last is what I'm trying to say. Because everybody's always kind of, taking off their shirts, which is fine to do to help out others. But still, this is, once again, filling up your cup so that way you can be a better asset, right, to pour more out into others. So with meditation, we focus on just calming down your breath. It might seem kind of, awkward at first, especially if you've never done it before, but literally just breathe in 4 to 8 seconds, hold it 4 to 8 seconds, breathe out 4 to 8 seconds. Now, if you can do that in, let's say, a quiet room or put in some noise canceling headphones, listen to some binaural beats or lo-fi beats, something with no lyrics, and maybe close your eyes. And once again, you will get, all these different thoughts going in and out your head, which is understandable. I definitely do, still to this day, and I've been meditating for years. But regardless, you always bring it back to your breath, and that's going to help you get into the present moment where you're not focusing about the future that you can't do anything about, and you're not focusing on about the past, which, hey, it's over and done with. So it gets you into the present moment. It gets your heart rate down as well. So it calms you down. And if you get distracted, right, bring it back to your breath. So from there, right, meditation, you can focus on whatever it is that you want. Some people like to focus on visualization. Other people like to focus on gratitude. But for me, right, growing closer to God, I focus that time now on prayer, where it's like I just got into such a place where I'm not distracted by anything. My phone's on Do Not Disturb. All I'm focusing on my breath. And honestly, after 5 minutes, I'm in such a deep meditative place where I feel very comfortable just talking, right? That's my prayer, is just having a conversation with God. And it typically is, Pastor Todd told me this. I'm really very grateful on how he kind of shared with me how to pray, which is one, giving thanks, giving glory. 2 is, confessing, in the form of your sins, anything that you want to get off your chest. And it's so powerful, right? 1, I think a lot of people struggle with actually confessing their sins. But I mean, man, there's so much truth to just pouring something off your chest, right? Like if you ever had something that's like a heavy burden, right, on your shoulders, it's like weighing you down. But when you get into a place where you feel comfortable having a relationship with God and you're getting stuff off your chest, it is like the best stress relief there is. And obviously at Heartletics, we talk about fat loss, right? Well, hey, if you're underneath a lot of stress, right, and you're spiking your cortisol, that's hard to lose body fat, right? So once again, everything goes hand in hand, and why I'm sharing these messages with you guys to help you out, in all areas of your life. So be open-minded, right? I'm not trying to offend anybody when I'm making this content. Just be open-minded listening to this. But regardless, right, when I'm in that form of that meditative, place and peace of mind, I'm having really good conversations in prayer, and it's just, it helps me personally. I feel like I don't have to carry the burden once again by myself. I can get stuff off my chest. And as most guys, we struggle with a lot of our emotions where we're kind of walking around as like a Coca-Cola bottle and somebody says something or does something and it's the straw that breaks the, camel's back, and it's like a Mentos that's being dropped into that Coca-Cola bottle and boom, and it just explodes. And it's like every single day, right? I'm focusing on, hey, at least, right? Bare minimum, right? 15, 20 minutes of just that deep meditative prayer, right? Where I'm not distracted by anything and I can focus on just getting stuff off my chest, And then when there is stuff that I don't need to get off my chest, I'm just focusing on gratitude. Like, honestly, I also don't want to be the type of person, and you guys will hear this in a little bit when we continue on with this conversation. I don't want to be the person that's just only going to God when I need help. Relationships don't work that way, right? Like, if you have a spouse and they're only coming to you whenever they need something, it's kind of selfish, right? I want to make sure that I'm coming to God in the good times and the bad times, right? In all times, right? Like, that's the mission that I'm on, right? So anyways, back to the mindset habits. The third one is out of my comfort zone. Now, the first video that I made talking about wrestling with Jacob, oh man, I did a Facebook Live on that one, shaking like a leaf. This one, I feel a lot more comfortable, right? Which is a good thing. So hopefully you guys can hear the message loud and clear. But at the same time, it's still uncomfortable. I mean, I'll be honest with anybody. I'm not a pastor, right? I'm not trying to convert anybody or offend anybody. But like talking about religion is kind of like talking about like politics, where if somebody's not open-minded, they hear, boom, you're this religion, or boom, you're this, political party, and then they immediately cancel you out. It's the same thing with health and fitness, with your keto nuts, right, that are obsessed with keto, and if you eat a donut, you're going to hell, right? If you look at carbs, you're going to hell. It's like if you step inside a bakery and take a whiff of some fresh bread or donuts, you're going to hell. I don't like that, right? I personally don't like that. I believe in anything, everybody should be open-minded and just take it for what it is. Be like a sponge. This is what we tell our members at Heartletics all the time. Be like a sponge. Hey, absorb in everything, but hear me out. Rinse out, right? What doesn't work for you. Plain and simple. Like, get that crap out of you, if it doesn't work the best for you. But at least be open-minded, So the topic for today is challenges from God. And, let's face the facts. Everybody goes through challenges. Everybody does. Any season of life that you're in, you're typically faced with some form of adversity, right? This could be stress at home. This could be stress at work. This could be stress with your health, stress with your money, relationships, worry, doubt, injuries, illnesses, sicknesses, anything like that, right? Stress, right? Challenges, adversity, okay? So here's my perspective that when I read through this, it just kind of clicked with me. And it's similar like when I first started learning about like macros and micros when I got certified with nutrition. Like typically when people are using big boy words and stuff like that, once again, I'm not book smart by any means. So it's like hearing that stuff really confused me. And I feel like that's why I never really did good in school growing up. Like reading the Bible, honestly, like I had a very terrifying moment. I remember specifically in third grade reading the Bible in the classroom, and I couldn't pronounce a name of somebody in the Bible, right? I don't remember which, but all the kids laughing at me because of how I mispronounced it. That self-limiting belief, kid you not, like it's funny how God works, because that self-limiting belief stuck with me, honestly, for I think until after college. Being completely honest with you, it wasn't until I, started working for corporate America, where I had to actually speak in front of several people. And I remember, like, in order to do good and, in that role at sales, make more money, you have to be good at speaking. And getting good at speaking requires you speaking in front of people. And remember, self-limiting belief from third grade, right? I hated speaking in front of people my entire life, because I always thought if I mispronounce something, right, somebody's going to laugh at me. It stuck with me for so long. So it's just funny because it's like God could use you with like the pain of the past, that self-limiting belief, to where here I am today making these videos and I speak to hundreds of people, right? And I always feel somewhat comfortable and confident, right? Like I still mess up on my words. No one's perfect, but it's just funny. right? It's just things like that just started clicking, right? So the perspective that I'm going to share with you today, this had such a compound effect, right? I'm a big guy when it comes to money, right? Finances, investments, different things like that. This right here was a great ROI, right? A great return on the investment, meaning that by just reading this more, spending more time in prayer, like, and once again, I could be wrong. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a biblical scholar by any means. I'm like a fresh person actually going through this, like think about it in that terms. But just like with the health and fitness, you're hearing like the big boy words and whatnot. It could be confusing at first. With that, I was able to just figure out a different perspective of macros, micros, right? All this different, big boy terminology, break it down to simple habits. And now I run a business teaching other people these simple habits that they can use to lose body fat. And they don't have to get certified. They don't have to get, whatever in nutrition or training. They don't have to get any of that stuff. They can just sign up for our coaching program, get results, and boom. But it's because I had to get a different perspective first in order to teach it to those people to then help them, where they can get off their medications. They can have more energy to play with their kids, have more confidence. So once again, why I'm sharing this video is because I want you to become the best version of yourself. In order for me to do that, I have to invest in myself, which means I have to invest into this Bible and a lot of time of prayer. So with that being said, Deuteronomy 13:3. Here's the Bible verse that stuck out, and it was like so powerful when I read this. It says, "The Lord your God is testing you to find if you really love him with all your heart and with all your soul." So, if you're reading or read the Bible or typically hear, about these Bible stories, there's a lot of times where guys go through these challenges, right? Stress, like a lot. Just like you with worrying about your finances, you with worrying about your relationships, your career, your health. Same thing applies to these guys back in the day, right? In fact, they probably dealt with a lot harder things, to be completely honest with you, right? We got Amazon Prime next day, right? We can get anything we want pretty ASAP, right? There was a lot more things that these guys had to deal with. But you hear about it, just from the studies, and just it's amazing. Like it truly is. You got these characters being tested, right? Like Joseph, right? Being tested with the prosperous wife, and like not in caving in. And when I heard that, I was like, man, that is like the definition of integrity. Like think about that, right? This prosperous wife seducing, right, Joseph and trying to just seduce him, and he's just like staying diligent, right? And the prosper whatever, he's on vacation or something like that. Like he's away from the scene, and this is going on for several weeks, right? Like as a man, right? Integrity. My definition of integrity is how you do one thing is how you do everything, and that means also, hey, you're doing the right things when no one else is looking as well. And like Joseph is the man of integrity, but once again, because of him being so, just, I like to say, manly, being completely honest with you, not caving into Prosper's wife, she ended up lying about him, throwing him into jail, bada boom, bada bing. He ends up, getting out, because he's interpreting dreams. And then, he ends up, reigning underneath Pharaoh. And like, it's just this huge effect of somebody going through a trial and then being blessed, right? Well, let's continue on. The whole entire book of Job, right? Job is going through hell and back, right? This dude is getting just spit on from Satan, right? In fact, like in the very beginning of Job, it's hard to comprehend, but God is even telling Satan just like, yeah, do whatever you want to Job. Like that's my dude, like I like him so much. Do whatever you want to him. I know he's going to serve me. I know he's going to honor me. I know he's going to trust in me. Do whatever you want to him. Just don't kill him. And so Satan, takes away everything. His kids, house, wealth, like all this stuff. And at the end of Job, he gets everything back times 2, right? The abundance of the blessings. And it's a hard book to read and comprehend, but you hear more about these just amazing things within the Bible, right? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they were, firm into their faith, so much so that when it was time to be thrown into the fire, like, and think about that, right? Like, hey, the king saying, bow down to me, worship me, or, this golden idol of me. And they're like, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to worship our God. And so they threw him into the fire, and literally like how hot the fire was, okay? Like the guards that threw him in even died. So these guys get thrown in there. Angel of the Lord appears, saves them. You hear about this over and over and over and over again. So I'm taking it from a perspective of, hey, me in my early 30s, and I read this verse, right? Which once again, Deuteronomy 13:3. The Lord your God is testing you to find out if you really love him with all your heart and with all your soul. Something just kind of stuck out. Where I personally, right, remember, this is just the perspective shift that I want you to understand, okay? That just been helping me out so much. Is that when I'm being tempted, when I'm struggling, instead of me realizing that this is, temptation from the devil trying to pull me down, I put the perspective shift, right? As I'm looking at that temptation, as maybe this is God trying to bring me up. And I kid you not, and I'm not trying to sound prideful by any means or, but the ROI, the return on that investment, that return on that mindset shift in just the past, several weeks of just seeing prayers being answered because I'm looking at this temptation different where I'm not falling into it. Because personally for me, I'm a very competitive person. So, meaning that if I'm looking at, temptation and sin as, oh man, like everybody falls, everybody fails, like I don't like looking at it that way. It doesn't strike a chord with me, if that makes sense. I like looking at it as like, oh man, survival of the fittest. Like God's even going to test you, not just the devil, but God's even going to test you. How bad do you want it? Right? That's like somebody being thrown into like boot camp, and as soon as they get out, it's like, all right, dude, you got to go, to Bud's training to become a Navy SEAL now. It's like, dude, I just got out of boot camp. Like, give me a break to chill. It's like sometimes these tests are really, really hard. But think about how powerful that soldier, right, is going to be if they're able to complete that. So I started looking, because I'm a very competitive person. I want to be the best at anything I do, right? And it's like I look at that as maybe these tests are coming from God. And anytime you're being tested in life, like putting a health and perspective shift on things, right, there's typically growth. Anytime. So I stopped looking at like the temptation as Satan trying to pull me down. I started looking at the temptation as God testing me to bring me up. And I'm telling you, it's so funny how health and fitness and faith are so combined. It's just like you sometimes have to go through challenges. You sometimes have to go through stress. And sometimes that stress is a good thing because it makes you get closer to where you're trying to get to in life. Meaning, let's just use bicep curls, for example. If somebody is just doing bicep curls with 10-pound dumbbells once a week, 3 sets of 10 reps, and they're never, focusing on progressive overload where they're either, increasing the weights or they're doing more volume, so more sets, more reps, if they're more frequency even, like if they're not changing things up, eventually like the muscle is going to stop growing. So they're not going to reach their goals of having bigger biceps. So the same thing applies to your faith, where it's like sometimes these tests, we have to look at them as, yes, challenges, but it's how we look, right? How our perspective shift is on how we see these challenges. You can either look at them as, oh, why me? Or you can look at it as, hey, try me. I got this. I'm going to surpass this test. I'm going to, get through this. I'm going to grow stronger in the end. And once again, like that's how personally I've been looking at these challenges. That's just been really amazing, right? In terms of I've been seeing where, I'll be completely honest with you. Through a lot of prayer, seeing prayers that have just been being answered, like that. And for the longest, I wasn't seeing my prayers being answered. But here's the thing. I know exactly why I wasn't seeing my prayers being answered. So in the beginning, I mentioned about, for the past 30 years, I knew about God, but I never had a relationship with God. It wasn't until I started, once again, putting the health and fitness into the same thing with the faith. And it's just mind blown how this perspective shift has been just improving my health, improving and what I mean by that is like taking a lot of the stress off my plate. Because when you start getting prayers answered, like that is amazing. Like you feel so less stressed, like you're not carrying the whole entire load. So that's what I mean by improving my health, improving my business, improving my relationships, improving everything. Kid you not. So here's the perspective shift that I really want you to understand. Let's say that somebody signs up for our coaching program at Heartletics. And let's just say that, one day out of the week, they decide to eat a salad. But the remaining meals, the remaining days, that person is, not working out. They're not getting their steps in. They're not eating healthy at all. They're probably not even tracking anything where there's no data, nothing like that. Do you think that person's going to get results? If they just, invested their money into our coaching program, but decided to just eat one salad, right, a week, but didn't listen to anything the coaches told them? The obvious answer is no, that person's not going to get results. Well, I started realizing this with myself, right, having a relationship with God. I don't want to be the type of person where if I'm just going to church, I'm just eating a salad. Like that's it. But, Monday through Saturday, if I'm not reading the Bible, if I'm not praying, if I'm not confessing my sins, if I'm not trying my best to acquire more knowledge, more wisdom, more understanding about, who God is and trying to embrace on this, relationship, guess what? It's the same thing that applies to the individual that signs up for our coaching program. They're not going to see results. It's the same thing with my faith. I'm not going to see results. And so it's like that you can either feed the flesh, feed the world, or feed your spirit. And so recently it's just like, I kind of had this perspective shift of like, if you want to see results, like it's not going to happen overnight. Just like somebody can't just sign up for a coaching program and just because they signed up, they're going to see results. No, that person has to put in the work. That person has to train their body just like you have to train your faith. I had to train my faith. I'm still training my faith. It's in fact my favorite muscle that I enjoy training right now in my life because it's been so many changes, right, have been happening, positive changes, right? And that's once again why I'm sharing this video with you is to encourage and inspire you as well about these positive changes. So I started looking at that relationship, and in any relationship, for it to grow, it needs communication. It needs communication. So it's like, I realize here that I can't be the type of person that's only going to God when I need my answers prayed, when I'm in the heat of the battle. It's like, what about the good times when I'm overcoming all these other battles, but I'm not giving God the glory, I'm not giving God the praise? Once things started clicking like that, like, oh, it's actually a relationship with God. And how do you form any relationship? Communication. How do you communicate with God? Prayer. How do you learn more about God? You read the Bible. Kid you not, guys. Right? It has been the biggest perspective shift ever. And then when I started reading, obviously, going through the Old Testament, reading about, Deuteronomy, which once again, right? The Lord your God is testing you to find out if you really love him with all your heart and with all your soul. You know what it also says? Hey, when you love the God, you know what it also says? When you love God with all your heart and with all your soul, he blesses you. And so how does he bless you? He answers your prayers. But it's not going to happen overnight. Just like you can't get the results you want, you can't get six-pack abs if you're eating, a salad one time a week, but you're eating Big Macs and sitting on the couch and you got Cheeto dust all over you, right? The remaining days out of the week. It doesn't work that way. So as we wrap things up, I want to encourage you because I don't want you to just hear the message as, okay, we'll just look at temptation this way and, it's easier said than done, Joe. Trust me, I get it, right? There's plenty of times I fall into sin, I fall into temptation. I'm no one perfect by any means. I'm probably, way worse than you, being completely honest with you, right? 1 Corinthians 10:13 says, God is faithful. He will not allow temptation to be more than you can stand. And it's like, if you have that, and that's why I know it says, he says in the Bible all the time, meditate on my words day and night. So it's like, when you're faced with that temptation, and then you can immediately think of 1 Corinthians 10:13, which says, God is faithful. He will not allow temptation to be more than you can stand. You just say that to yourself. Close your eyes, say that to yourself. Whatever kind of temptation that you're falling into at that moment, you might think differently about it. Honestly, where you might start having more control. And you should start praying about that, maybe having more self-control, so that way you can start to learn how to win that battle, when the temptation comes. And once again, I'm not trying to convert anybody to anything. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a biblical scholar by any means. I'm just somebody that is, in my early 30s, reading this, gaining a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, wishing I could have started a lot sooner, making these videos so my son will eventually start a lot sooner than I did, and also at the same time to just inspire somebody out there that needs to hear things from a different perspective. Because just like with health and fitness, big boy words can be very confusing at times, but if somebody can break things down into just a different perspective to hopefully inspire you, that's all I'm trying, to get after with making these videos. So if you happen to enjoy this episode and this content, leave a comment down below letting me know. And as always, Coach Joe here with Heartletics.com. Talk to you guys next time. Peace out, Girl Scouts.